along the line. You weld them together by some of the best welders in the world. No weekend welders here. This is what these people do. They're the best in the world at it. You x-ray the weld. If the weld isn't perfect, you cut it and you do it again. After you get enough sections of pipe together, you will put a cap on one end, you put water in there, you raise the pressure up to what it will experience with gas in it to make sure that there are no leaks. Only then can you put it into service. Once it's in service, we monitor it 24 hours per day from a gas control center that we keep an eye on all of our lines. If something happens, we can shut off at different valves along the way to stop the flow of gas. You'll see that device in the lower left corner. It looks sort of like a torpedo perhaps going in that tube. That is called a smart pig. That is a very high-tech device that goes into the line. You drop it in, you let it run 30, 40, 50, 60 miles. It's taking millions of readings of what's going on with that line in terms of corrosion, any dents, anything else that we should know. Those are run periodically as a safety precaution to make sure we know exactly what's going on with the line. We work with local first responders, our landowners. We don't put the line in and go away. We're around constantly. We walk the line periodically. We fly it periodically. It becomes a business that's monitored and maintained every day. Yes, sir.
But even with that, there are some times that there are, I guess because it is a pipeline that has some seeking, there are some minor explosions along the pipeline. Is that not right?
There have
I've
been.
looked out, and maybe those were some of the older ones.
There have been accidents in the past around the country, no question. Statistically, the natural gas pipelines are among the safest forms of transportation. That's not just me telling you that. That's the U.S. Department of Transportation on the website. That's the agency that oversees the safety procedures that we follow. They will tell you that it is among the safest forms there is.
But when we have those, can you, and maybe some of the people that you have, some experts, the blast radius when they happen, about how big is that blast radius around when it does happen?
Oh, I'm not the engineer type that could tell you that exactly, but there are formulas that can tell you what size line and how much pressure and what the circumstances are. I could follow up with you on that. In our application, I mean, that type of information is very much laid out. So the benefits have already run through some of these. Reliability and diversity of supply. I mentioned that Eastern North Carolina now gets most of its gas from one Transco line that's out west that's brought over. Having a second supply of gas is very important, especially as you become more and more dependent upon natural gas-fired electricity. Having one pipeline go down and cause power stations to not be able to operate because of lack of supply, that's nothing that you want to have. Cleaner air, certainly as you burn less coal and burn more natural gas, there are fewer emissions, that's just a fact. Economic development activity, up and down the line. All three governors that really announced this project jointly the day of the rollout, every one of them talked about how when they're out recruiting businesses and industries to come to the area, if you can't, for certain category, if you can't guarantee an abundant supply of affordable natural gas, you're off the list. So the governors are all excited about how this natural gas can be used to attract industries in. Economic development activity during construction, there will be many jobs, there will be many subcontractors, firms along the way that will benefit from the investment that's being made over the 2-year construction period. Support of intermittent renewables. We have wind projects, we're adding more solar all the time, but if we put in 500 megawatts of solar power, we know that the sun doesn't shine all the time. You need to have something to back up and kick in when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. Natural gas is the perfect fuel for that because a natural gas-fired power plant can be ramped up and ramped down very easily. So this gas will help the development of renewables. Solar has been going gangbusters in North Carolina, as you all know. Employment opportunities I mentioned, and the property tax I already covered. I won't go into all of these numbers, just the total capital expenditures in North Carolina will be about $1.2 billion. Down under operations, you'll see energy cost savings. We hired ICF International, a very highly regarded energy economic and modeling and consulting firm, to look at what it means to bring 1.5 billion cubic feet of gas per day into an area that's constrained, looking at demand, looking at pricing in the past and pricing going forward. They projected North Carolina consumers could annually enjoy savings of about $134 million, much of that through power prices. I've already covered these, and I've already covered the timeline. Just a quick glance at what a pipeline right-of-way looks like. If you look at the lower left, that's a good example, or the one in the middle. I met with someone recently who at the end of our meeting said, okay, but where does the pipeline go on that right-of-way? I said, no, the pipeline's underground on that right-of-way. So if I didn't say it, I want to absolutely say it, this all goes underground. People will be excused for not knowing that these pipelines go underground. People often see pictures of the pipeline in Alaska, which is above ground for different reasons. This is all underground. Agricultural areas, we have at least 4 foot of soil on top so that heavy equipment can continue to farm. So if you farmed it today, you can farm it tomorrow. If you graze it, continue on once the line goes in. For a landowner who obviously will not be able to grow crops the year of construction, we're going to compensate for them for that, and then we're going to double that because we know it can take a couple years for the land to get back to its original level of productivity. Even though we take the topsoil off, segregate it, do the project, put the topsoil back on, decompact it if necessary, so we double that. And same for the timber. We use a formula that's commonly used in the timber industry to compensate timber owners for it might be a couple crops going out. And again, there's a commonly accepted formula. We've met with foresters, and we're doing that in a way that is being well received already, I believe. That's what I just talked about there. These are some of the many permits that are required. Even though the federal agency is the one that tells us whether we can do the project or not, that doesn't mean we don't have to get literally thousands of other permits along the way. I asked someone lately which permits we needed, and his answer was all of them. Anything you can think of. But on a project of this magnitude, that's fine. That's fine. We'll work our way through all that. And if you want to know more about how to get information on the project, there are a number of different sources we have. So I covered a lot there. I talked quickly. If there are other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does anybody else have any questions that haven't already spoken? Okay, Ken?
You didn't mention our industrial park.
Yep.
I understand the line has been changed. You want to talk about that?
Right. The original route was going to take through was going to go through the industrial park. We got together and came up with a way of running it sort of along the edge of the park so that it wouldn't impact too many lots. This now will take us out of there. So at one point the thought was maybe you could get some gas from the line for the industrial park, but one of the aspects of then moving out there will be that it would have to get there through another line. Our friends at Piedmont would need to be consulted with to get gas into the park should a customer be identified that needs it.
And how close will it come, or what's the proximity?
I should have looked that one up ahead of time. I should have anticipated that question. I'd like to follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Charles?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 2 quick questions. I want to follow up on what Commissioner Adams had asked about the underground blast.
The underground what?
Underground blast,
Oh, okay.
where he was asking about the radius.
Yep.
When we had those individuals here, they were concerned about that. So your professional opinion, should they really be concerned about that?
The pipelines are exceedingly safe. Statistically, they're exceedingly safe. There are hundreds of thousands of miles of pipeline around the country today. Maybe there are millions, whatever that number is. Every day, all day, they're operating very safely. I could take you out and show you areas where we have pipelines, and Dominion's been in this business a long time, where people build right up to the edge. We'll have a pipeline, and development will come right up to the edge of the right-of-way, and they're fine with that because they've taken the time, they know the safety record, they know what goes into making sure that line is safe, and they're comfortable with it. So I can't tell people they shouldn't be concerned. I get concerned when I get on an airplane. I want to get there. So I don't want to say, don't worry, there's no concern. What I can tell you is that these pipes are extremely safe, and a tremendous amount goes into making sure that they're built, designed, installed, and operated safely for decades. And the track record is tremendous.
Okay. And I'm sure we welcome that $1 million you're talking about, but economic development that you were talking about, how would that benefit Cumberland County as far as jobs are concerned?
Well, if you look around at whether it's fertilizer plants, manufacturing that are energy intensive, they require employees. Like I mentioned, the governors tell us when they're recruiting, they need transportation, they need land, they need a workforce, and a certain category needs natural gas. If you're going to attract some major new employer, some energy-intensive industry, they're going to need workers. There's a certain category you just can't get if you can't guarantee an adequate supply of abundant, affordable gas. So it will bring jobs. I can't tell you today a number or when, but you know that communities with natural gas accessible do better than those without, period.
What I think I hear you saying, Mr. McKay, is there won't necessarily be jobs related to the pipeline in Cumberland County. Is that correct?
Well, construction jobs, certainly there will be
construction.
during that period. Not that many jobs to operate a pipeline, but the opportunities that the gas can bring to help attract industries and grow those that are already here can be substantial.
To follow up on that, what kind of local access to this pipeline will industry have? You mentioned that Piedmont has some restrictions on maybe what goes in, but I mean, how will any industry be able to directly tap into this pipeline, or is there some access point that they have to go to?
Right.
Tell me about that.
It is conceivable that a very, very large customer could tap in directly.
Large,
But,
define large.
a power station or an auto plant. I mean, something maybe of that magnitude.
Big gas user.
Right. By and large, think of it as the interstate highway. There are exits along the way. You may live next to an interstate. You don't have a driveway onto that interstate. You go to the next interchange to get on the interstate. I mentioned our interconnect with Piedmont Natural Gas near Wade. That is the point where this pipe will put a bunch more gas into the Piedmont system at a higher pressure that they then can go out and reach more places.
Gotcha, okay.
They already have an investment plan of, I want to say, $186 million earmarked for growth, where they can now do new things with this gas that they haven't been able to do before. Doesn't mean they can get everywhere. It still has to make economic sense.
Anybody else have any questions? I've got one other thing.
Yep.
I just want to know what the state of the art is as far as leakage of gas into the environment or into the atmosphere. I've seen films. I don't know if it was infrared, ultraviolet, or what kind of camera imaging they were doing, but you could see the streams of gas leaking from, you could see where a pipeline was, and you could see the gas leaking into the atmosphere based on what these cameras were showing. Has the state of the art improved so that that doesn't happen, or tell us what we need to know about that?
Absolutely, it certainly has. So you would expect a new line like this to not leak, okay? Now, what you will have seen with those cameras, a lot of older pipes, especially in some of the older cities, Boston, Washington, Cleveland. For example, we own Dominion East Ohio Gas. That's the utility company that serves Cleveland. We have about 1.2 million gas utility customers out there. A lot of very old pipe there. We are going through our system there and taking out the old pipe and putting in new. When you do that, and you do it for safety purposes, you also are getting a lot of those leaks addressed. So that's on the distribution side. On the production side, historically, there has been a certain amount of gas that leaks when new wells are drilled. The completion technology, they call it a green completions, I believe now, a lot of new systems, methods, so that even when you're drilling, doing the initial coupling and all that, better seals, better things, every step of the way to release less methane into the air. So it's something that's we've become aware of just the last few years, being addressed pretty rapidly.
Anything else from Ms. McKay? Sir, we thank you for bringing a very interesting talk. We understand that we don't have a decision to make. It's not within our purview, but this has been very informative. I thank you for getting in touch with me. When he first contacted us, he wanted to meet with just me. I said, no, we need the whole board to hear this. And we do thank you for bringing this. It is fortuitous that the changes have been made and we get an update all combined with our initial talk. So we do thank you so much, and we look forward to anything that might happen in the future that you need to tell us about, just get in touch with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Your time is
Thank you.
valuable, and you've given me quite a bit this morning.
Thank you so much, and thank you to your colleagues who have come down as well.
Sure.
We appreciate you.
Okay.
Next item is Cannon.
Yes, sir. Item number 3 is the consent agenda.
Do I hear a motion?
Second.
It's moved and seconded by several. Any discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
So much. Next item is Cannon.
Yes, sir. Item number 4 is an item of business. It's consideration of proposed schedule for the fiscal year 2017 budget work sessions and also the public hearing. Mr. Chairman, what we wanted to do today was to give you a proposed schedule that would begin with the actual budget presentation of the recommended budget on Thursday, May 26th at 7 p.m. The 2 other work sessions, May 31st and June 2nd. We would then have another work session, the department head appeal, Tuesday, June 7th at 5:30. We have scheduled tentatively the public hearing on Monday, June 13th, and then another work session, if needed, on Thursday, June 16th. So these are some dates. We've tried to work around night meetings and that type of thing and other commitments that the board has, but this is for your review and consideration. And if you are in agreement, adopt the calendar.
Okay, questions, comments? Mr. Keefe?
Thank you. Ms. Cannon, I see Mr. Utley's here also. One of the biggest things that we are going to be working through in the next year, of course, is reevaluation. As we consider our budget going forward, do you think we'll have some numbers to consider for reevaluation in the future year?
Probably no concrete numbers in May and June for consideration for the notices in January.
Okay. I think a lot of things may be that we need to address coming up in 2017. When it comes forward, it would be, I know the chairman asked a little bit at our work session about where we were, and I know we're a little apprehensive about actually talking about the values. But I think it would be beneficial for us on a planning side if we could have just an idea, if you would consider that.
Right now, we have monthly meetings set up with Mr. Utley to get monthly updates on the progress. I think at the work session, Mr. Utley indicated that they were pretty much complete with most of the residential and we're moving into the commercial side. It's my guess that it will probably be much later in the summer and into the fall before we have any accurate or any projections of the valuation for the upcoming year. But I will say this, as we get information, we will share what we're comfortable with sharing along the way.
Thank you.
Mr. Adams?
I'll just bring to the attention on the June 16th meeting is that I know that Commissioner Edge, Fairclough, Lancaster, and I have a hospital finance committee meeting, so.
You're exactly right.
So,
I overlooked
and then
that.
they move it, I mean, so that's, that would be the conflict on that Thursday, the 16th of June. And I know I chair that committee, so we may need to look at that date.
We'll make an adjustment. How about we bring back the schedule at the March 21st meeting? How about let us look at the calendar and revise and change that June 16th meeting?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments? What, you want us to vote on it when you bring it back, or what?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it'll come back next meeting then. Very good.
Item number 5 is a resolution in support of the March 15th, 2016 City of Fayetteville Parks and Recreation Bond referendum. In your packets, you will find a resolution that basically is in support of the bond referendum. It basically finds that the enhancement of the city's parks and recreation facilities will benefit the community by expanding the opportunities and should enhance our community's ability to attract economic development projects. We have placed this resolution for your consideration this morning.
Any questions or comments? I ask each board member to please consider supporting this. The mayor asked me to ask you all, and I did. And I think we have a lot to do, the county and the city together. I think there are a lot of things that we're going to be working on in the future, and this expression of support, I think, will go a long way in helping our relationship to move forward. And that's something that I'm hoping we can do. So at this time, I'd ask for a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass this resolution to endorse the plan of the city for Parks and Rec.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you, board.
Item number 6 is nominations to boards and committees.
Okay, the first item is the Adult Home Community Advisory Board. We do have 2 vacancies. Do I hear any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, John Thompson just completed his initial term. He's eligible for reappointment. I would nominate him for reappointment.
Okay.
And Clarence Everett Senior is completed his initial term and is eligible for reappointment, and I would recommend or nominate him for reappointment.
Okay, are there other nominations? If not, close those nominations. Okay, item B is the Fayetteville Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. There's 1 vacancy. Do I hear a nomination? I know we have to turn to that one. Computers are a wonderful thing, but it is kind of slow in this process. Luckily, we don't have any appointments this time around.
No.
Okay. Somebody have a nomination for that one then? Want to skip that one?
They,
Have you got it? Okay, what have they got?
the Fayetteville, the Fayetteville Area Convention and Bureau, Visitors Bureau recommended the appointment of Sharon Lee. I would nominate Sharon Lee.
Okay, okay, we've nominated Sharon Lee. Are there further nominations for the Fayetteville Area Convention and Visitors Bureau? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 7, we do not have any appointments for this meeting, so we'll skip that one. The next item is a closed session, Mr. Cannon.
Yes, sir, a closed session for economic development matters pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318, 11A4.
Okay, do I have a motion to go into closed session? Okay, movement by council, is there a second? Is that yours? Okay. Okay, moved and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, we'll now go into closed session. Who seconded that, Larry? Closed session, discussion, all in favor?
Unanimous.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Unanimous.
Okay, meeting adjourned.